You're listening to the True North Success Podcast. Real stories of personal, professional, and financial wins from Alberta's best. With your hosts, Gary Ma and Amy Kim.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Today my special guest is Matthew Burgoyne. He's a prominent Canadian lawyer specializing in the legal framework surrounding digital assets and blockchain technology. As a partner at Osler, Hoskin, and Harcourt in Calgary, he chairs the firm's national practice group dedicated to this evolving field. Matthew is one of the first legal professionals in Canada to represent cryptocurrency companies, establishing himself as a pioneer in the industry. His work involves designing complex corporate structures and ensuring that emerging technologies meet strict Canadian securities and financial regulations. Recognized as a leading expert, he frequently provides legal commentary on major media outlets like Bloomberg and the Globe and Mail. He also serves as an advisor to the Alberta Securities Commission. It is my pleasure to have Matthew Burgoyne on the show today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Gary. It's great to be here. Thanks again for asking me to do this.
So Matthew, I gave you a quick overview of your success, but can you fill in the details of what you do, who you serve, and how long you've been doing this for?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a partner at, like you mentioned, at Osler, Hoskin, Harcourt. We're a national Canadian law firm. I'm chair of our digital asset and blockchain group. And so I'm really focused on regulatory compliance as it relates to the digital asset industry in Canada, specifically securities regulatory compliance. I mean, I'm a partner in the corporate group, so I'm capable of handling corporate law related matters and fundraising type issues, assisting clients with fundraising. But where my niche is really being carved out is, I think, securities regulatory compliance as it affects the digital asset industry. And, the digital asset industry, it's still relatively new in Canada. I'll get into the history of when and how I got involved. But, the regulations and the laws that have affected the space have changed over the years. So, in the early days, it was more anti-money laundering, counter-terrorist financing law, and now it's mainly securities law. And so I've become somewhat of an expert in this really niche area, and there's pros and cons with that, definitely. But I help entrepreneurs, large institutions based in the US, UK, Asia, anyone who is starting or a business in Canada in the digital asset space, or who has an existing business and wants to enter the market in Canada, I would help provide them with advice. And we work a lot with law firms based in the US and in the UK and in the EU sometimes. And it's basically crypto trading platforms. So the websites that you go to buy and sell crypto assets on. We act for one of the largest crypto ATM companies based in the US in North America by volume. We act for crypto custodians, financial institutions that are dipping their toes in crypto. I act for a number of stablecoin issuers, and so stablecoins have been a pretty hot topic in the industry lately. We've acted for some more exotic type businesses in decentralized finance, some foundations that are adjacent to decentralized finance. I've speak quite frequently at conferences. Most recently, about a month ago, I spoke at Cayman Crypto Week in the Cayman Islands. Spoke on a panel regarding Crypto Without Borders, it was called. So, it's a great career. I'm very grateful to have, the practice I have right now. And it's an incredible firm, that I'm at, as far as the, professionalism, the quality of work, the attention to detail, and the support, and the varied practice groups at this firm. So when you start with any law practice, As you take on more clients, the issues become more complex,
Hmm.
and ideally, you want to be if you're in private practice at a law firm where the firm can handle any issue that comes along for a client, where you don't have to refer work out because you don't have a specialist in a certain area. So yeah, Osler is being great for that. But yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very cool. Like, I mean, in terms of at least my experience in the crypto world, it's pretty new type of thing.
Yeah.
But let's look back. Like, what was your driving force to become a lawyer? I mean,
Okay.
that was many
Yeah.
years ago, right?
Many years ago. I can't believe yeah, I've been practicing law for 20 years.
Right.
If we include articling, 21 years. And so we have to, take it back to the late 90s. I was not a scientist. I wasn't a science and math guy. I was more, writing
Hmm.
and poli sci, and I really got interested in philosophy. And so
Hmm.
I grew up in Winnipeg and did all my education in Winnipeg. I thought I was just going to spend the rest of my life there, but I ended up moving to Calgary in '06. But so really loved logic and logic problems and I'm a big Star Trek, the original Star Trek fan, and I
Okay.
always admired Mr. Spock's
Okay.
logic and how
Yeah,
he
yeah.
and I don't know, there was something about that, and critical thinking really attracted. I was attracted to critical thinking, and so I uh, dove into philosophy, and at some point, yeah, like because I was interested in it, I was getting, decent grades, and I was thinking, like, what am I going to do with this arts degree with a major in philosophy? And I started thinking about law because of the critical thinking component, right? And
Okay.
it's not politics. It's very different. When you're analyzing information in a certain way, and analyzing law involves critical thinking and logic. And so I thought, I kind of always wanted to be a professional. Like when I was a kid, I wanted to be a doctor, and borrowed medical textbooks from family friends that were physicians, and it just didn't go down that route. But
Yeah.
law was something that I thought that I could do, and there was a reasonable chance I could get in. And I studied months for the LSAT, and got in. And yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah.
As far as law, yeah, I just,
So,
yeah, jumped in.
so
And
you just kind of thought about it, like the logical thinking, and sort
yeah.
of really grew on that side of things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Something about like the critical thinking and analyzing law and how it could apply to, different fact scenarios.
Yeah.
A lot of people would find that boring, when you buy a product or you're subscribing for a service and you see the terms of service, the fine print, you don't usually look at that. I mean, we're drafting that's kind of the language that I'm looking at,
Yeah.
all day, every day, sometimes 10 hours a day. So my eyes have deteriorated so much. My eyesight started getting bad in early university, and now it's just like I can't see far away. I wear contacts, and now I can't see close. So now I need
Okay.
bifocals. Anyway, I blame my profession in the law. So you had asked before about like cryptocurrency and how I got into it. So
Yeah.
that's so as a lawyer, I had a guy who mentored me, a senior partner at a firm that I ended up working for when I moved to Calgary from
Yeah.
Manitoba. And he was like a rainmaker. He went out and brought in work and was
Okay.
excellent with clients. And he took me under his wing. And one of the things that he was always big on was specializing in certain areas. So
Okay.
he
Yeah.
said, you don't want to be a generalist in law. You want to
Yeah.
get into an area and be an expert in it. And so, we got in, he was involved in the private mortgage lending industry, advising
Hmm.
private non-bank mortgage lenders. And so I got into that work. And it was 2013 in the summer, and I was training for a marathon in Toronto, and I started noticing articles about Bitcoin, and I was interested in, there was an article about the Silk Road, which was this, illegal underground darknet marketplace. That the fact that something like that could exist and that it worked based on no trust, like, the parties didn't know each other, like wouldn't trust each other, but somehow that still functioned, and the currency underlying it, was fascinating to me. And so that Bitcoin was being used, unfortunately, on these marketplaces. But I was interested too in the Bitcoin mining, and so in 2013, I was, the Calgary Herald was already publishing articles about Bitcoin miners in Alberta. So there was an industry here in Calgary. I bought and sold Bitcoin when it was $132 a coin. I
Wow.
sold all of what I bought the next year when we hit our, a big downturn in the industry. But anyway, so one of the best ideas and the best things I could have done for my career at that time was think, how can I apply this to law? Like, this is an interesting area.
Yeah.
What are lawyers doing with this in Canada?
Right.
And I went on Google and there weren't any like lawyers doing anything with it. So I
Okay.
thought, okay, I think this is going to catch on. I think that, Forbes was already writing about it. I thought, this is going to take off. Laws are about to change or be created. And as a lawyer, when laws are going to change or be created, that's the time when you want to swoop in. Well, you're trying to help people. It sounds a bit greedy, but that's an opportunity, right? So
For sure.
I started writing articles in the summer of 2013 on how Bitcoin might apply, or how Canadian law might apply to Bitcoin. And I wrote an article, got it published on my firm's website at the time, and I got a client who drove down from Edmonton and met me for coffee. They were a Bitcoin gift card company. Great idea, great guys. It just was like too early. And through that relationship, I met one of the most prominent crypto lawyers at the time in the US. He gave me some pointers on where to write. He said, write for a website called CoinDesk, which I wrote articles on, and that is now the largest, and has been for some time, the largest industry news website in the world for digital assets, coindesk.com. So all my old articles from that time period I wrote about 5 or 6 articles for CoinDesk over the years, but they're all still published. I started getting calls from people in Toronto, people, in Vancouver. I started getting calls from media. So CTV came into my firm. I was an associate. They did an in-camera interview. I was shocked that someone would, think of me as an expert on anything, let alone this. But it grew and started snowballing. And I used all of the tips that Barry, the guy who mentored me, taught me. I employed with crypto. So joining industry associations, putting on in-person seminars on how law might apply, writing articles, posting on social media. I just started doing that, and the work came. And you do good work as a lawyer, and the clients will come back. And I've been I've been fortunate to have some really long-term client relationships in the space. And so, in a nutshell, that's what happened, and it just grew and grew. And my practice basically got too big for the firm I was at prior to Osler. I had a headhunter reach out to me and say, "Hey, this, I knew of Osler. I knew some lawyers in Toronto who worked at this firm, and I joined the firm in June of 2022. It was a huge step forward for me, a huge step up. I joined laterally as a partner, and then I attracted different clientele and different work, and more specialized and varied. And so it's been a great ride so far.
Right on. What do you think kind of sets you apart from the competition? Like, what comes easy to you that others find challenging?
I think honestly, the focus on business development and just being involved. So part of my upbringing, my parents were always big on community service, and my high school, I went to an all boys Catholic high school in Winnipeg. St. Paul's, their motto was, be a man for others. So that spirit of trying to be of service in the community is been beneficial. Not a lot of lawyers in this space in Canada are as involved. Some of them are,
Mm-hmm.
more so recently, but I benefited, from having that drive to volunteer and just to get involved. Business development, again, like just implementing the tips that I was taught early on in my career, I think has helped. But yeah, public speaking, like a lot of lawyers don't like public speaking. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't. I was terrified of it. In fact, I chose to be a solicitor, not a litigator in court, because I didn't want to publicly speak. And ironically, now I do a ton of public speaking, and it's just gotten easier over the years. And
Right. Yeah.
but I think so. Yeah, that's probably what sets me apart is the business development. Although recent, it's tough. You have to always be doing it, and recently, I feel like I've kind of let it slide. But generally speaking, I think just my involvement and business development and taking clients out for lunches and dinners. I would fly to Vancouver, take clients out for lunch for the day, fly back to Calgary in the same day.
Okay.
I go to Toronto almost every month or so.
Right.
To see clients. And so,
Yeah.
it's, that's a big part of my practice is business development.
Right.
And, just at this firm, there's a really high, strong emphasis on quality legal work. And so trying to do a good job, not a rush job, not cutting corners.
Yeah.
That's probably something else that sets me apart is that we really try to do good work here.
Yeah.
And I think our standards are fairly high at this firm, and I think that's reflective in the work. And also, what sets me apart, I think, is my relationships with some of the securities regulators has been very strong. Not adversarial. We
Yeah.
push when we need to push, but I've been pretty collegial, and that I think has benefited clients. There are times, of course, when you have to push back and be a bit aggressive, but I'm not hostile to regulators, and I think that's helped as well.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean those are fantastic tips. What do you think? What other tips or suggestions would you give someone who wants to be more successful?
Yeah, I think, look, we're all to some degree in sales, no matter what your position is. I mean, I'm a lawyer, but I'm, almost like sometimes I feel like a glorified waiter, right? Because I'm a service provider. I think
Sure. Yeah.
the professionals who understand, really what it is they're doing at the end of the day, a lot of it, our work does involve sales. Even if you're an engineer working for an oil and gas company, you're probably still responsible to some extent for business development
Yeah.
or facilitating projects, and you're with the goal of trying to get more work. So I think really, understanding your clients, getting involved in their industry groups, figuring out what issues are most important to your clients, being in the same places that your clients are going to be, and that you have to sacrifice something for that, like your personal time get sacrificed. It's incredibly challenging, I think, for professionals now to balance everything. A career. I have a wife. We have one child, a 12-year-old
Hmm.
boy. That So, but if you want to, in my view, if you want to be successful, you really have to, understand who your clients are. If you're in the client service business, and focus on marketing to them and kind of being where they are, and what was I going to say? You're trying to make them happy. I mean, I'm not out there trying to people please all the time, but I do think that you to be successful, you have to, your clients and those who you work with have to be happy with you. So
Right.
whatever that takes, like if that's, answering emails late at night, I don't have to do that all the time, but, weekend work. So I think that's important, but I think it's honestly like the marketing and business development goes, that's not, I don't think that's emphasized enough in a lot of professions, and it does matter.
Yeah.
I think everyone's trying to sell something, to some degree. So
Right.
yeah,
I mean, when you're serving people, yeah, it's good to get the message out, and then part of that is the sales and the
yeah.
marketing component. It sounds like things are going really well for you and your business. As a busy executive professional, a lot of time is spent running the active business. When looking towards the future, like many don't want to have to be working so hard for that income. So some of them are looking at different ways of creating income out and profits outside of actively working. Things like maybe investing in stocks, bonds, crypto, or using a
Hmm.
financial planner or something like that.
Right.
What are your thoughts about ways of creating income outside of your active work?
Yeah, no, that's really important. It's a lot. There's a mandatory retirement age at our firm of 65, but I think a lot
Okay.
of lawyers, they have had to impose that. I think because a lot of lawyers will just keep working forever.
Right.
I remember at a firm I worked at when I first moved to Calgary, there was a guy who just worked literally till the end. It was kind of sad. His family had to come in and help pack his office up, but
Oh,
I think investing is something that is I guess my side gig. I don't really have time, to get into anything else other than law, right, for income generation. But I think like investing is key. I honestly, just I read a book that almost changed my whole view on money and success, and it called The Psychology of Money by
okay.
Morgan Housel. And I
Okay.
recommend that to anyone who's a professional right now. There is a certain keeping up with the Joneses, and especially with lawyers. Yeah, your brother-in-law or whoever, or your coworker down the hall, just bought a Porsche, and you think you want to go and buy one. I think if you can have a mindset where you don't necessarily need that next thing to make yourself happy, that's an incredibly powerful life hack, right? If you can get into the mindset where you don't need the next thing, shiny thing to
Right.
make you happy. So that helps, right, with financial planning and finances. I think there's income creep. A lot of professionals suffer. I had that for years. It's only recently I had this realization that, yeah, like I don't need the next shiny thing. And so, your income can kind of continue on the same, or if it increases, you're just, all the better off if you can live with less and be happy with less. It's a pretty fundamental mind shift. Book Psychology of Money I'd recommend.
Mhm.
But investing, yeah, I do have time to invest. I've done a lot of investing on my own. So I had
Okay.
a coworker a number of years ago who he invested a lot on his own and taught me about it. And he recommended a really good newsletter that I was following. But lately I've just been putting so I've only used like Wealthsimple and Questrade, so self-directed investing. And
Hmm.
Wealthsimple has like a managed account, an RSP, registered plan account. And so
Right.
lately I've been, dumping a lot of extra money in that, and not making decisions. But, if you find a good newsletter, that helps. I've used AI to help budget
Hmm.
and help with financial planning. I have met with bank financial planners, but I don't know. I think now we have tools available that are really helpful. I mean, I think it still helps to have someone in person and meet with them, but honestly, like the budget and the plan and the forecasting that an AI bot generated for me was very useful, and reasonable and rational. Yeah, but investing. Yeah, I don't think it has to be overly complicated, but even if you buy some ETFs, or so. Sorry, my lights went off here in my office. Some um, you know, funds that track certain
Yeah.
indices. So I don't know if I said that properly. But that, yeah, like if you invest in a fund that tracks the stock market, large cap companies like that. That's all you really need.
Right.
And I don't think you have to, be really risky. And if you like, again, like if you just invest in like, a balanced fund or a fund that tracks a stock market, you don't, if you manage your own finances and you don't get caught up with lifestyle creep, you don't really even need huge gains, right? Every year.
Right.
Like yeah. So I don't know. I'm not an expert when it comes to investing, but I definitely, like, for me, investing has been, the obvious choice, I guess, right? For trying to earn extra
Right.
income. Yeah.
Yeah. So investing is important. Thinking about the future is important, and taking action and putting it some sort of investing vehicle type thing
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
important.
That's important.
Yeah.
Crypto is good. Like Bitcoin, I always say, I dollar cost average into Bitcoin. So every week I buy a little bit, not a lot,
Right.
regardless of what the market's doing. And that strategy has paid off for me in the last few years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. As we're wrapping up our interview, what kind of exciting plans do you have in the works for the next 6 to 12 months?
Well, I go to an annual crypto conference in the US. It's called Consensus. It's actually put on by that CoinDesk website I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to Consensus 2026 in Miami in May. I've been asked to be a guest speaker at the University of Toronto Faculty of Law in May, also at the end of May. So I'm going out to Toronto. It's on a Sunday, and I'll be a guest lecturer for an afternoon at a course at the U of T Law Faculty of Law. Well, we did our trip to Cayman. I guess that was about a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
I brought my wife and son, and we had just a great time. Um, that's what I have planned. So just, speaking engagements, I guess, coming
Right.
up.
Okay.
That those are always interesting. I'll probably do some trips to Toronto to visit clients. Yeah, I think like that's kind of it. We don't have any big travel plans left for this year. I've got a client that has a house on the lake in Kelowna. He's done very well for himself, and he offered to my wife and son and I to use it, which was great. So if you can build good client relationships in
Yeah.
whatever field, it can pay off if those
Right
clients
on.
are wealthy. You can enjoy some of that. So, but yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
Very cool.
Mhm.
Matthew, that wraps it up for
Okay.
today. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for
Thank you for
sharing
having me.
your insights and tips with us. It was a real pleasure to have you on the show. And Matthew,
Yeah.
if people want to connect with you, what's the best way?
Yeah, go on. You can search my name, Matthew Burgoyne, on LinkedIn. I'm most active on LinkedIn, although I don't check messages all the time, but feel free to reach out and I'll get back to you. I'm on X as well at Burgoyne Matt. You can send me an email, mburgoyne@osler.com, OSLER. Yeah, and that's it. Oh, I just created a new website with an AI tool. It took me like 20 minutes, bitcoinburgoyne.com. So check me out there as well, bitcoinburgoyne.com, all one word.
All right.
And thanks again for having me. This
Hey,
is
you're
great.
welcome.
Yeah.
This was great as well.
Want to share your success story? Apply to be a guest at truenorthsuccessshow.com/guest. We'd love to hear from you.